What is going on, everyone? Happy Thursday. Thank you all so much for tuning back in, and let's jump right into another recap. Not the biggest green day today, but I was green finally, so thankful for that. I was red Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday so far this week, and as you guys can see, I was up $29 on TQs, and I was down $10 on SQ, so I was up just under $20, as you could tell from the thumbnail. Here are all my filled orders, kind of a lot today, 39 orders, 40 fills, and obviously here's where you can see all my entries and exits on the day. And the reason why I don't ever show you guys the actual entries and exits on like going to stock TQs is because since I take so many orders, look at how messy it looks, right? I personally think you can't really get much out of it. There's just way too many arrows, right? You can't tell by looking at it that great, so that's why I'd rather just walk through with you guys what to do looking at the future, the actual NASDAQ, right? So just to remind you guys, if this is your first time watching, I trade looking at the NASDAQ, the actual future itself, and it has two ETFs that correspond with it. TQQQ, if you'll notice, looks exactly the same as it, and that's because it mirrors it basically. TQQQ, it goes up when the NASDAQ goes up, and the inverse SQQQ, as you'll see, would just do the opposite of this today in the NASDAQ, and it just died today, right? Pretty much. It had a nice rally here, which I'm going to talk about, but ultimately ended up dying. So if I switch back to the NASDAQ, as you can see at 5:30 in the morning, a CPI, another report was released today, and that's why the NASDAQ had this huge drop because the report was nothing good, obviously. That's why there was a big drop. If you guys look at the news section here that TD Ameritrade has, as you can see, all the titles say that the CPI rose 0.4% in September. So definitely not a good thing. And obviously the NASDAQ crashed, the whole market did. And today, right here, when the market opened up, I decided to first take a trade on TQs because I saw a potential little support trying to form here. And I thought maybe, I could get in and it would start pushing up. And I got in kind of somewhere up here and it ended up starting to fall originally. So I actually took a loss. And then when it started going again, I actually took a trade on SQs thinking it was going to fall here again, potentially. Trying to find a strong resistance right around here, but that didn't happen. And it ultimately kept riding this blue EMA line up. So most of my trades today, because there were a lot, were kind of just getting caught in this chop, but I didn't lose much or anything or gain much. It wasn't the biggest thing at all. I was in with like $500. That's it. Never averaged up. So yeah, not that's why I don't want to pay as much attention to that, but my trades that did allow me to be green on the day because I did switch from being green to red, but I was mostly in the red today. It was my last trade actually that put me green, but I just want you guys to pay attention to this key area right around here. This was a critical area in my opinion where the NASDAQ was either going to start to uptrend or start to downtrend a bit. Maybe it could have caught a support and uptrended again, but I'm just saying at this moment. And the reason for that is because obviously it's been downtrending a lot because it just dropped a lot, the NASDAQ, from the bad report. But it did start picking up a bit and it was holding above this blue EMA line, right? Which was a good sign. It was using it as a support. And once it picked up above it, it was just riding it up basically. It didn't want to break below it. And once it approached this green SMA line, that was a big potential kind of resistance area it had to pass. And if it could pass it, that's just a great sign that it could look good to start going up. And if it got rejected by it, it would kind of just be an indication that it was just a pretty strong resistance and it was sending a direction downwards now because it couldn't cross it, right? To show signs of an uptrend. So basically, I was looking out for a play like that, and I actually ended up getting stopped out for a loss a few more times when I tried taking SQ's plays here. When I saw it kind of get rejected and start showing signs like it maybe wanted to fall. But ultimately, it did push back above it. And when I saw it drop right around here, the NASDAQ, I decided to take a shot with TQs because it did cross above it now. And it was still setting itself up to make higher lows, right? And that's what ended up happening. So I got in originally, as you guys can see, right around, this was my last trade at 8:04. So here's the timestamp just to remind you guys. So at 8:04 was right around here, and I got in originally with $500, and this thing did start to push up, and with kind of no resistance at all. It was, as you can see, mostly just green candles, no rejection or anything. So I averaged up two more times after that, as you'll see, kind of pretty close, with they were all within like a minute apart, and I sold 2 minutes later all my shares I bought up, and I sold them obviously for profit. That's how I was green on the day. And I did sell them obviously very early, knowing me. I ended up selling them like kind of right around this level when I saw that it did just break above this resistance, but I thought, there was a chance it could fall again. And the reason also why I sold was because it did gap up very quickly. And usually with a huge move in the upside or downside, I find there tends to be some type of kind of big push in the opposite direction because it pushed up so quick. It makes sense people want to lock in profits. But, it did have a big push. I did lock in profits, but looking at it in hindsight, obviously knowing me, that's my type of luck that would happen. I sold, and this thing just ended up going to the moon. Absolutely, it had an amazing day, and it was a little shocking to see. That's why I wasn't expecting a huge move up like that, because the report was not good, right? The market could have very well not um, had passed this green SMA line and kept falling, and I would have looked for a lower low even, because as I just said, the report wasn't looking good. So this was a little bit of a shock that the market was able to rally this much actually, but it was obviously something that was pleasant for most people who have stuff invested long term. And yeah, unfortunately, didn't get to take part in any of this. It would have been smart, but once I was green on day, I had to call it because I did have to go into work again this morning. So I can only really trade till like 8:30. And yeah, I had to call it, but it would have made sense if you wanted to keep taking advantage of this, obviously, right? If it kept showing great signs of an uptrend, and on top of that, it kept confirming this pattern of riding this blue EMA line up, right? It would just keep, anytime it approached it, it would just keep using it as support to keep going up and rallying. And honestly, today was pretty like just interesting to watch the market because when I saw it, I watched kind of these plays play out as I was getting ready to leave and everything like that. And man, the Nasdaq just really rallied huge. It honestly looked somewhat like a momentum stock today. And yeah, just a ton of volume. I haven't seen anything like that in a while, and it was just really cool to watch. If you look at TQQQ, you'll see that there was a lot of margin, obviously, that could have been made today. Look at that, around 14-15% from where I sold. I missed out on obviously a nice 12 to 13%. So yeah, just blessed to end green and take advantage of some of that. But what to get out of today's video, what I want you guys to get out that allowed me to be green was just making sure to go with the direction that it's showing me. Obviously, right around here, you make sure to look out for potential support and resistance areas. So let's say it did start coming up and you were looking again the upside. Watch out that for these other lines here, right? These other indicators to tell you that it could get rejected there because, you could have locked in profits here. And as it fell, you wouldn't have been having to be stressed over that because you did lock in profits already. And as it came back down, if you saw it wanted to try and go again, you could always get back in again. So yeah, just keep in mind potential places to sell that might be smart. And on top of that, just go with the direction that's showing you. If people thought that the market had to be destined to pull back just because of the bad report, right? It was going to keep selling off. Just don't limit yourself is what I'm saying. Don't be so one-sided because if the pattern kept showing itself that it wanted to keep climbing and using this EMA line now to start basically recovering from this big drop it had, then that's basically regardless. I mean, you basically just need to disregard the information that you just told yourself, right? About the Nasdaq having to sell off. Just go with what the information is showing you and you'll be fine. thank you guys all so much for watching. It's been another recap. I've enjoyed doing it, and take care. I'll see you guys all tomorrow.